In the village of Craigmore, nestled in the shadow of Moth Hill, the locals would often warn their children to stay indoors after dark. Moth Hill was a place of mystery, a place that seemed to hum with an unnatural energy. Even when the wind wasn't blowing, the villagers spoke in hushed tones about the goblin that lived there, a creature so vile and cunning it had haunted the land for centuries. The story was always the same. The goblin, a small hunched figure with green, scaly skin, sharp claws, and glowing yellow eyes, had lived in the cave of Moth Hill long before the village was founded. It was said that the goblin would only emerge when the moon was full, crawling from the darkness of its lair, looking for lost travellers or wandering children. It would follow them, its footsteps silent, until the victim was completely alone, and then it would strike. There are rumours, too, that the goblin didn't just feast on flesh, it was far worse than that. It was said to enjoy the fear of its prey, savouring the terror in their eyes before they met their end. The goblin's voice, a low rasp, could be heard at night. Whispers carried on the wind, calling out in the darkness, trying to lure the weak-hearted closer to its lair. One evening, as the sun dipped low behind the hills, a young man named Thomas, newly arrived in Craigmore, decided to test the old legends. He had heard the stories countless times, but believed them to be nothing more than just tall tales of old villagers. He was an outsider, an adventurer, and he wasn't afraid of some creature of myth. With a torch in hand, he set out towards Moth Hill, eager to prove that there was no such thing as goblins. As he climbed the winding path up the hill, the trees grew sparse and the wind seemed to die, leaving the air eerily still. The village lights below twinkled like distant stars, and the only sound was the crunch of gravel beneath his boots. At the top of the hill stood a large cave, its entrance like an open mouth, dark and beckoning. Thomas approached with caution, the torchlight flickering. He chuckled to himself, wondering why the villagers were so frightened. As he stepped inside, the air grew thick, with a scent of damp earth and something fouler, something rotten. Deep within the cave, a faint whisper floated through the still air. "Come closer." The voice was raspy, like sandpaper dragging across stone. Thomas pushed, his heart pounding, but he shook his head, dismissing it as the wind. He pressed on, deeper into the cave. The shadows grew longer, the silence more oppressive. His torch flickered again, its weak flame casting eerie shadows on the walls. Then he heard it again, closer this time, echoing off the walls. "Come closer." This time it wasn't the wind. It was a voice, low and grotesque, like something that didn't belong in the world of the living. Thomas's grip on the torch tightened. He wasn't sure why, but a deep primal fear began to claw at his chest. Suddenly the air in front of him seemed to shift, warping, and a shape began to emerge from the shadows. It was a small, hunched over, with elongated limbs and fingers tipped with sharp claws. Its skin was a sticky green, and its eyes, glowing yellow, pierced the darkness, locking onto him. Thomas froze, his heart skipping a beat. The creature's mouth curled into a wide, jagged grin, revealing rows of sharp, yellow teeth. It was the Goblin of Moth Hill, the very thing the villagers had warned him about. But now it was too late. The goblin's voice rang out, cruel and cold. "I've been waiting for you, traveller." Before Thomas could react, the goblin darted forward with unnatural speed, its claws slashing the air. He stumbled backwards, but the creature was too fast, too agile. It hissed and whispered in his ear, its hot breath foul and heavy, and it circled him like a predator, seizing up its prey. "You fear, so sweet," it groaned. Thomas scrambled to his feet, his mind racing. He tried to swing his torch, but the goblin moved with lightning speed, knocking it from his hand. The flames sputtered and died, leaving them both in total darkness. He could hear the goblin's whispering laugh echoing in the blackness, sending chills down his spine. You should have listened, the goblin taunted, its claws scraping against the stone floor as it crept closer. Now you'll know the taste of fear. The ground beneath Thomas' feet suddenly gave away, and he found himself tumbling down into a pit. He landed hard, the air knocked from his lungs. Dazed, he struggled to his feet, but when he looked around, all he could see were the glowing yellow eyes. More goblins emerging from the darkness, their eyes burning bright in the pitch-black void. They crowded around him, their snares filling the air. He could feel the heat of their bodies, the stench of their decay. His breath came in shallow gasps, panic rising within him. As he realized there was no escape, the goblin from earlier stepped forward, its claws grasping the stone. You'll join us now, it hissed, as we feast on your fear. The last thing Thomas heard before the darkness swallowed him was the goblin's cruel laughter, mingling with the fate of whispers of other voices in the cave, voices of all those who had come before him. The goblins fed on their fear, their souls now forever trapped in the bowels of Moth Hill. To this day, the villagers speak of the Goblin of Moth Hill, warning their children to stay far away. They say, if you listen closely on certain nights, you can hear the faint echoes of footsteps in the distance, of something small, something sinister, following you in the darkness. And, just maybe, if you're unlucky enough, you might hear a voice whispering in your ear, inviting you closer. Come closer, and you'll know it's already too late.